Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Samasta Janakalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. We continue our study of Vivekachudamani. Today we look at shlokas 103 onwards. Gurudev has labeled this section Ego Discussed. So shlokas 103, 4 and 5 talks about the ahankar, the perceiver, feeler, thinker. Up to now we have seen what is anatma. Anatma is the sthula sharira, anatma as the world of objects, anatma is indriyani. Anatma is antakarana, and part of this antakarana is none other than this ahankar. And how is this ahankar formed? What is this ahankar? We see that antakaranam chakshuradishu varshmani ahamityabhimanena tishthatyat bhasatejasa. Varshmani, in this body, how is this ahankar coming about? This is a very beautifully composed shloka, the very genesis of ahankar. If we understand the genesis of ego, how ego is formed, that is what is described over here. Varshmani, in this body, what happens? Eteshu chakshuradishu. Within this body, and that too within the very pool of the antakarana. Why? Because eteshu, these, chakshuhu adishu. When it is a chakshuhu adishu, what is implied over here are the senses, sight, etc. You know, the hearing, the touch, the seeing, the smelling, the taste, pancha karmendriyani, pancha jnanendriyani, pancha karmendriyani, the 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action. I had mentioned that the physical eyeball and the biology of the eye and the biology of the ear, that is at the level of the sthula sharira. But we are talking about indriyani. Indriyani is subtle. It is much subtler than the optic nerve, which takes information in the brain and we are able to see. but the very cause for us to see the information transferred by retina, etc., all this, the physical biology, is the indriya which has its root cause in antakarana. Mana buddhi chitta hankar. So in this blue stuff, the antakarana, the indriyani are there. So in these indriya, aham iti abhimanena आभास तेजसा antakaranam tishtati. So ahamiti abhimanena. So when the information is passed of the world of the objective reality, the little object in front of us, and the eye transfers the information to the brain, and the antakarana receives it through the indriyas. In this indriya, over here it is said aham iti abhimanena, to identify with the information passed on to the antakarana, that identification, abhasa tejasa. Very, very important word over here. Abhasa tejasa, with the reflection of Atma. That reflection of the absolute, when it bounces on the very reflective surface of the antakarana, the reflection that takes place is known as the reflective consciousness. This is the original consciousness. The original consciousness is objectless awareness. It is exclusive awareness. It is samanya cheta. Samanya chetana shakti, which is all pervading. It is everywhere, in all places, in all time. And this absolute consciousness, when it comes in contact with the reflective medium, the reflective surface of antakarana. Antakarana has a very special ability to reflect awareness. So, in the pool of the antakarana, this wristwatch appears, and because of the presence of the mind and the intellect, which has the quality to reflect consciousness, that reflective consciousness identifies with the watch and says, my watch. Ahamiti abhimanena is said over here in the second line. That it is me, it is mine. It adds extra masala to this watch and says, it is not just a watch, it is my watch. The watch as an object over here, it has no sense of ownership. The watch doesn't claim that I am Swamiji's. I claim this object is mine. No objects in this universe claims their own presence. It is the object which appears in the antakarana through the senses. That's why over here it is said, antakaranama eteshu chakshuradishu. Information which arrives in the antakarana through the gateways of the senses of perception, these gateways, when information enters and it identifies, that is called ahamiti abhimanena abhasa tejasa antakaranam tishtati. It remains in the antakarana as I, me, mine. This is the genesis of ahankar. We are in the subject of discussion of what is anatma. The original consciousness, atma. Reflective consciousness, anatma. And the ego-owned objective reality on the outside and the ego-owned objective reality on the inside. What are the objective reality on the inside? Over here we have emotions. When I say I am happy, I am sad, it owns the kingdom of mind as my mind. Not only my mind is happy. But it happens so fast, we don't even wait and study the ahankar. We just ride the wave of the ahankar from the minute we wake up until the time we go to bed. This is happening at split second moment, moment to moment to moment to moment, and a reality is created on the inside about the objective reality. The objects are mine, the emotions are mine, and even the thoughts are mine. That's why there is intellectual property. People put copyrights on their books and patents and all of those things. My intellectual property. मैंने ये सोचा है, मैंने ये बनाया है. And all of a sudden, the very gross reality of life becomes a solid projective reality in which we find ourselves bound like a silkworm in a cocoon. The ahankar creates a reality on the inside. It simply looks at the outside world through the gateways, the channels of the senses. It creates a reality. And that reality becomes our reality. It becomes the reality of the ahankar. It is not the identity of exclusive consciousness. The identity of exclusive consciousness is objectless awareness. That all-pervading reality lends existence to objects, and it also lends its sentiency from a single cellular organism like amoeba all the way to Brahmaji, who is the creator of this multitudes of worlds. Each reality is a projection. The seven worlds above, Bhu, Bhuva, Suva, Maha, Jana, Tapa, Satyam, Atala, Sutala, Vitala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patal, 14 worlds are in the domain of ahankar. They are only a projection. It is called lokaha. Lokyate gamyate iti anena. Lokyate, where an experience happens. Gamyate, the mind going over there, it experiences. If it is an experience, it's a time-bound experience. It has an arrival date, existence, and then a departure. Dhruva did so much tapascharya as a little boy by inspiration from Narad Muni. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And when Narayana appears, he wanted to sit in the lap of his dad. He's a boy. Narayana made him sit. What do you want? I want to sit in your lap. I'll create a loka for you. Dhruva loka. Arriving over there, he understands the futility of the loka. Long time in Dhruva loka he has to be. Narayana comes, blesses, goes. It's not a permanent sitting in the lap of Narayana. Only in knowledge we can sit in the lap of Narayana. We claim our title to be Narayana. Not with ahankar. Then we go around with, alright, you know who I am? I'm Narayana, do namaskar to me. Not like that. It is knowing I am, I am, I am. Bas. This identity is to be known. This whole book is for revealing this identity. Shankaracharya ji painstakingly walks us through what all is anatma and what creates bondage, how bondage is sustained. Kosavanatma, paramakka atma, tayoho viveka kathameta duchyata. All of these questions, very beautifully, he is answering. Because, see, if we understand the genesis of a problem, we can nip the problem in the bud. The minute ego rises and we claim it, say, no, why am I doing this? I'm beyond this. And we drop it where we found it. That allows us to move through this pluralistic world. And that is why so beautifully over here the genesis of ego is talked about. One is the original consciousness, antakaranam. And antakarana over here is referred to as chakshuradishu indriyani, the fertile field created by the arrival of outside objective reality as just their mere presence. But then, in that reflective medium rises a reflective consciousness. And that reflective consciousness now is owned up as ahamiti abhimanena, that I am. And in this way, Gurudev very beautifully gives an example about a pool, a bucket of water. If the bucket of water is still and clean water, the sunlight will be reflected off the bucket of water onto the wall, and the reflective sunlight will be still on the wall. But if it is a really windy day, then that same reflection will be moving on the wall. And positively, if the bucket of water is really dirty, If the gardener has washed his hands and mud has been added to it and it has become dirty, and in fact little pieces of grass and everything is floating, not only on a windy day, if the reflection will be moving, the reflection will be hazy because the water is dirty. So the reflection on the wall of the sunlight depends upon if the water is clean, if the water is still. The quieter the mind, the more precise will be the reflection of the consciousness, and we will be able to do some Vivek. And that Vivek Shakti will come over there. Tayoho Viveka Kathametadutyatam. For Vivek Shakti to work, basically the mind has to be quiet. And the mind has to be pure, clean. That's why Antakarana Shuddhi, the purity of mind and intellect, and Antakarana Ekagrata, the single pointedness, comes from the quietude of mind and the intellect. That is the example Gurudev has given. And I'm repeating it because this is important to understand, because when we sit in our seat of meditation, if this distinction is clear, we will be able to meditate for a longer period of time. To that extent, to the extent our understanding is clear, we'll be able to usher our mind to higher states of quietude and silence. In spite of the noisy world of objective reality on the outside, and I have some control over my emotions and thoughts, and these will say, you are allowed to be angry, but not in meditation. Let us quieten ourselves. Give up the anger. So we benefit from this knowledge and understanding. And that is the whole idea. If we are clear, our bhakti becomes clean, deep. Bhakti is a function of knowledge. So that is what is discussed. I'm taking time to explain this because our goal is Jiva Brahma Aikya. We are not just going through the bas ye pad liya, this shloka is done. We should benefit from even one shloka, but if we benefit, if we can silence the mind and if we can rise above the noise of our life, it's well worth it. That's what this is for. It's not just some check. Continuing. Ahankara savigneya karta bhokta bhimanyayam satvadi guna yogena javasthatrayamashnute. Now, the genesis of the three cities in which we live. That ahankar creates the experience, and the experience of the objective reality. This is my house, this is my thing, this food. Every single thing we write our signature of ownership. Everything. There's a signature. We leave our footprints. Like anything that we touch, we don't even realize we leave our fingerprints. The forensic sciences, they'll figure out, oh, who has touched this glass? I've touched it, my prints will be over here. But in this vast expanse from birthday till the last day we are on this planet, our ahankar leaves the prints everywhere. Every waking moment is a fingerprint of ahankar. How? Over here, abhimani ayam, identifying ayam ahankar, this ego, identifying with the states of the external reality and the internal reality, karta bhokta iti saha ahankara vigneyaha. This ahankar, consider it to be, I am the doer, karta. Identifying with the state of affairs created over there in this pool of reflective consciousness, reflective medium of mind and intellect. This reflective pool, when the reflective consciousness takes place, this ego owns up the reflective consciousness and it identifies this as my objects. I am moving it. I have acquired it. So karta. And I am enjoying it. Aham bhokta. Iti ahankar savigneyaha. So not only does the ahankar rise by the mere identification, but now the identification is taken to another level of doership. Now it is released into the pluralistic world as a karma. The gross karma we can all very nicely see. Even we can look at others and we can say, yeah, acha kaam kiya, he did a really good job. And then we say, theek hai, it's okay. And then, bigad diya, just ruined it. So to say that somebody did a really good job, they did an okay job, and then not only did they do something, but they did something viparya, and it has been ruined. All this is the autobiography of the ahankar. I have done. So gross karma can be seen, but subtle karma, irsha towards someone, jealousy. Arey, they got the raise, I didn't get it. My boss likes them, they don't like me. And this ahankar will create a story of what has happened. That is the inside karta. He is the doer of the internal story of life. External story of life is there, and that is blown out of proportion on the inside. Whether that is really happening on the outside, that also is questionable. So now the ahankar lives in its own created space. Not just the physical world on the outside, but a time and space which is projected on the inside, which is what we call psychological time. Psychiatrists have to deal with, people having schizophrenia and, depression and so many things. All, we call it mental illness. And then what is healthy ahankar, what is unhealthy ahankar? In the very stage of Vedanta, ahankar is ahankar, bas. Because I've heard people say, Swamiji, healthy ahankar is required to keep a job. It must be, yes, it's true. Or from the standpoint of Jnanam, it's only Ahankar. It's Gurudev used to say, non-apprehension of the reality creates misapprehension. Not known, कुछ न कुछ स्टोरी बाहर, कुछ न कुछ स्टोरी ऑन द इनसाइड, बस चलता रहता है. And we create a karmic thumbprint in that story, and that story gains momentum, and it creates future births. Bhagavan Krishna starts from there. He said, stop creating your karmic debt. How? Do karma, but you unite with karma properly. He calls it karma yoga. Third chapter, karma yoga. Fourth chapter, jnana karma sannyas yoga. With knowledge, you give up the ownership of karma. Fifth chapter, karma sannyas. Completely disassociated with the ahankar. Pashyan, Shunvan, Spushan, Jigran, in all these activities, I'm not doing any of it. See how beautifully Bhagavan creates a very subtle operation on antakarana. It's very easy for a surgeon to, cut out something and then put it back together and all that. But each one of us has to perform a surgery on our antakarana. The subtle surgery is known as the art of meditation. Art of living life. And this is the first thing which we have to do. The first control we have is our actions. Let me nobilize my actions. Let me not own up the actions, karta. Let me not own up the fruits, bhokta. Karmani eva tava adhikar. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma karma phala hetu bhuhu. Ma te sangostu akarmani. 4 simple instructions to weed out ahankar. So, this karta bhokta creates a solid reality for the jivaha. And the jiva's identity is far away from Atma. So Atma and jiva are now separated thanks to kartrutva and bhoktrutva. The ahankar has solidified the relationship, and sattvadi guna yogena, and sattva, rajas and tamas. Where are these coming from? In Vivekachudamani itself it will be discussed, but the equipment itself has gunas inbuilt in it because it's part of Prakriti, we will see. So, identifying with the sattva guna, the ahankar projects a solid reality called waking. Identified with rajoguna, it creates another reality known as dream state. Identified with tamoguna, there's a complete withdrawal with the identification because it's dull, inertia. So identifying with that deep sleep state. So over here, cha avastha trayam ashnute. The three avasthas, Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti. In these three cities, Puratrayam Kridati Astu Jivaha. It is said in Kaivalya Upanishad. In these three cities, the Jiva plays. Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti. Which Jiva? Ahankar has created that. So, in this way, these three different states, Ashnute, it gives rise to those three states. Then, some more masala is added by Ahankar. It's just three shloka Shankaracharya ji has taken, but it is a complete autobiography of Ahankar. Even if we just understand this, our meditation will become, what am I doing wrong in my life? Why am I subjected to the onslaughts of samsara? If this understanding comes clear, we can make proper choices. Vishayanaamanukulyena sukhi dukhi viparyaye sukham dukkham cha tad dharmaha sadanandasya natmanaha. So, Vishayanam, of the senses, the sense objects, Vishayanam, Anukulye, when they are conducive. If the objects are conducive, Sukhi. Tad Viparyaye, if they are not conducive, Dukhi. If the objects in my life that I am exposed to are along the lines of my own vision of my projected reality, then I'm happy. I have projected this object will give me happiness. Nobody projects such ideas. The objects are equally available to everybody. Food, the whole HEB is filled with anything you want to buy. They don't force you to buy at gunpoint. We go over there, Anukulya Vastu we will pick up. That's it. Vishayanam Anukulya Sukhi. And I leave HEB very happy. Even some extra items we pick up, we didn't plan on picking them up, but the advertisement is there and it's dangling in front of my senses. So chalo. Bag of Pringles also arrives. Was not part of the plan, but now it is. Anukulya Sukhi. Tad Viparyaye, who goes to HEB and pick up objects and for being unhappy? Nobody does that. A simple grocery store. Even when doctor says you have to eat healthy, we look at it, zucchini. कौन है खबर zucchini ये सू कर you. But what do? We project sorrow upon that poor zucchini. It's very healthy by itself. So, Viparye Dukhi. There are so many people who are eating healthy. They have not projected. They've learned to deal with the objects in a proper way. I have to utilize this equipment. Let this equipment be healthy at least while I am utilizing it as an upadhi. That's all. And then sukham dukkham cha tad dharmaha. The dharma of joy and sorrow, all of those things, that is not the Atma. Na Atmanaha. It is not of the Atma. Sadanandasya Atma is ever blissful. But then we project all these sukham, dukkham, all these dharmas onto the jiva. And the jiva becomes sukhi jiva. The jiva becomes dukhi jiva. Have you heard of a dukhi atma? Sukhi atma? No. The only definition of atma is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Tadveda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. Bas. It is existence, consciousness, bliss. That is its nature. But its nature is not known, so the jiva identified with its reflection, adding information to it, utilizing the awareness and adding that onto the objective reality as conducive and non-conducive, the jiva becomes sukhi and dukhi. This is the autobiography of jiva in just 3 simple sentences. In 3 shlokas. First shloka said, the genesis of ego is the reflective consciousness, when it identifies with the senses. Second shloka said, from there rises a seat of identification. I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. Not only is it the doer and the enjoyer, the third shloka that we just saw now owns it up as my state of being. I am happy. I am unhappy. This is how a jivatva is created. How beautifully Shankaracharya ji in 3 shlokas have captured all of our autobiographies. This is our autobiography. If we don't realize our own true nature, we have nobody else to blame but ourselves. And as our identification, so is our reality. So is my internal state of being over here as sukhi and dukhi. Sukham dukkham cha tad dharmaha na atmanaha. All these dharmas are not of the Atma. Sadanandasya. Atma is ever happy. So now the next 3 shlokas, he will continue Sadanandasya Atma. What is this Atma? So he's sprinkling to, because he has just made 3 beautiful points about an Atma Vastu as Ahankar. So if Ahankar is Sukhi and Dukhi, if Ahankar itself is sad, then what is beyond Sukhi and Dukhi? Has to be something Sadanandasya. So what is the Sadanandasya? That now he is infinite love, the self. What is the self? Again, 2 shlokas, 106, 107, he interjects and then he will elaborate more on what is Atma. But over here, he said, Atmarthatve nahi preyan vishayo na svata priyaha svata eva hi sarvesham atma priyatamo yataha tata atma sadanando nasya dukkham kadachana. So continuing with this, Vishayaha Svataha na Priyaha. See, he's analyzing these objects. I took this example of this watch. Vishayaha Swataha, by itself, this object, Swataha na Priyaha. It's not dear. Orange, apple, zucchini, food. Because we cannot give up food. For the very sustenance, food is required. Okay, chalo, this watch we can throw, it doesn't matter. But food is something we are all exposed to. By itself, the food, swataha, they don't have anything like swatapriyaha. Atmarthatvena hi priyaha. Because of this self, which is reflecting in this reflective medium, why did this ahankar come up with the idea that this is mine or this is dear to me? I like orange. I don't like apple. Why do I like this? And why do I not like this? This idea of priya, dear, where did it come from? This is what now Shankaracharya ji is analyzing. Because he just mentioned karta, bhokta and sukhi, dukhi. Last shloka, this ahankar, sukhi and dukhi, tad dharmaha natu atmanaha. So where did that idea of sukhi and where did that idea of dukkhatva and sukhatva, where did it come from? So now Shankaracharya ji is analyzing. He's saying in the object, the dharma of priya, the dharma of pleasure. Vishayaha swataha na priyaha. The objects by themselves are not pleasure giving. It is atmarthatvena hi preyan. Because of the presence of Atma, objects are pleasure giving. Preyan. They are pleasure giving. Then over here he says, Atma swataha eva hi sarvesham priyatamaha. See, he is now drawing this very beautiful conclusion. Objects by themselves don't have a degree of pleasure identified in it. The pleasure giving, the idea that the object gives pleasure, over here he comes to this understanding, this conclusion that this Atma, swataha, by itself, sarvesham, in all places, in all times, priyatamaha, superlative degree of priya is used. Not just priya, priya, mod, pramod, it is talked about as different degrees of joy in Upanishads. Over here, he takes the word priya and superlative degree, priyatamaha, the most pleasure giving. The Atma alone is the most pleasure giving. And because the Atma is most pleasure giving, that nature of Atma, when the reflection takes place in this antakarana as the reflective consciousness, just like when the reflection of the sun takes place as the reflected sun on the wall, the quality of light is equally present in the quality of light that we see on the wall. In the same way, in the reflection of Atma in the Antakarana, that reflection has the nature of Atma, which is Priyatamaha. It is most pleasure giving to itself. And that is taken by the Antakarana and it is superimposed on objects. In Shastra, there is something known as Anyo Anya Adhyas, mutual superimpositioning. For example, I have fire over. Imagine I have fire. Fire has quality of heat and light. So I have a fire. In this hand, I have an iron ball. Iron ball has weight, it is dark, it is cold, and it has a shape, I call it ball, it is round. So a solid, dense iron ball. When I take this iron ball, put it in the fire, what do I say after half an hour? Do I pick up that iron ball with my bare fingers? Chipio ke sansi juise. I don't know what that is called in English. Some tongs. And you pick up because it is red hot iron ball. The color red, the temperature hot, that light red, the iron ball has now become molted, glowing red ball. Fire has no shape. Now fire has taken the shape of a ball. The iron gave fire shape. Fire gave the ball heat and light. Red hot iron ball. This is called Anyo Anya Adhyas, mutual superimpositioning. Consciousness has the nature of pure, blissful awareness. It is existence, consciousness, and bliss. That existence, consciousness, bliss is now transferred to the reflective consciousness. Reflective consciousness also has this nature of existence. It is aware of itself because the equipment acknowledges I am, and if nothing is happening, I'm okay by myself. So consciousness gave existence, consciousness, bliss to the reflective consciousness. in this reflective consciousness, which has the same gunas of the, I shouldn't use the word guna, it is dharma. The dharma of awareness is now present in this reflective consciousness. But the limited nature of mind comes from a little pool of mind. The sun's light is all pervading, but now when it reflects in a bucket, as much the surface area of the bucket is the reflection of light. So the limited nature of the mind is what is projected onto the reflection. Now this reflective consciousness says, Array, I'm only this much. Buddhi adds some more. मुझे ये आता है, मुझे ये नहीं आता है. I know this, I don't know this. So the quality of the mind, the quality of the buddhi is superimposed on the reflection. And consciousness superimposed its dharma of existence, awareness, and blissfulness. And what is born out of the union of antakarana and awareness is yet another entity. Like I say, red hot iron ball, over here a third entity. And what is the third entity? Jivatva. A jiva is born. And now this jiva is aham karta, aham bhokta, I am emotional, I am not emotional, I have buddhi, I don't have buddhi. So the limited nature of the equipment is superimposed onto consciousness. Now the poor consciousness is trapped with only this equipment. And that poor consciousness over here, reflective consciousness, that absolute has now become the small reflective, and the objects, they don't have any qualities of awareness. So my awareness is lent to it. My awareness has blissfulness in it. So now I superimpose the idea of priya on object. And that idea of priya is already determined by the sense experience. Because the senses are there. And as the sense experience, so is the object. We eat bitter gourd. Oh, it is bitter. The frowny face comes out. The Indian mango, a smile comes out. The mango doesn't have the dharma of priya and priyatama. Bitter gourd doesn't have any dharma of priya, priyatama. I, endowed with a limited existence, consciousness, bliss, I have superimposed. And in this way, this happens. Tataha Atma Sadanandaha. Therefore, Atma is Sadanandaha. Na asya dukkham kadachana. There is no sorrow in that Atma. This is the self. The capital S self, not the small s, reflective consciousness. This is how this happens. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati is a very famous statement from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Yajnavalkya teaches this to Maitreyi, that because I am most dear to myself, I extend that dearness to my spouse, my children, and the world around. Because I am most dear to myself. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. That is what is addressed over here in of the Shruti Vakya of Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. These are, very loaded shlokas. Just cannot quickly finish them. Because the more we don't have time, date to finish it. The idea is to understand it properly. When we understand it properly, we will discern better, and when we discern better, to that extent, the quality of my life will be better. That's it. Nothing else. We are not racing against anybody. We only want to understand why this misapprehension has happened. Because there has been non-apprehension. That is all. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.